The sun hadn't yet touched the peaks of Rockridge when Ranger Ben Wyatt rolled down the narrow fire trail in his beat-up Forest Service truck. His window cracked, cold morning air rushed in. The forest was quiet. Too quiet. "Quick run today," he muttered, double-checking the GPS unit clipped to his vest. "Trail cam, loop, back before noon." Rex, his aging but sharp-eyed German shepherd, sat alert in the passenger seat. Not panting, not whining, just watching the woods. Always watching. They parked near a crude logging path. Ben clipped on his radio, grabbed his bag, and gave Rex a short nod. "You stay," he said. Rex didn't move, but his eyes followed Ben as he disappeared into the trees. The plan was simple. Check trail cam number 42. 5-minute hike. Then back to the truck. But 5 minutes became 10. Then 15. "Base, this is Wyatt. I'm on trail 12, heading up to camera 42. All's quiet." A crackle of static answered. "Copy that, Ben. Be safe. It's slick out." He chuckled. "What, you think I forgot last winter?" Another laugh on the other end. Then silence. Ben climbed over a ridge where frost still clung to shaded roots. He reached the tree that held the camera, reached up. His boot hit ice. He fell. Hard. Branches snapped. Rocks scraped his back. His arm bent wrong. The world blurred. Then darkness. An hour passed. Maybe 2. Rex stared at the forest, unmoving. He let out a low growl, short and sharp. Then he leapt from the truck and vanished into the trees. By noon, Rockridge HQ hadn't heard back. Ranger Tina Lawrence tried the radio again. "Ben, come in." Nothing. "Dispatch, this is Lawrence. I'm initiating a code yellow. Last ping from Ben's GPS was an hour ago. He's overdue." Search teams moved fast. By 2 p.m., 3 rangers and a medic were in the woods. Tina led them, rifle slung, face tight. "He wouldn't go dark without calling," she muttered. "No sign of a struggle," the medic said. "Yet," Tina answered. Then a bark cut through the trees. Rex. It came again. Closer. Then the team froze. Ahead, in a shallow clearing, lay Ben. Unconscious, blood on his temple, arm bent at an unnatural angle, backpack shredded. But that wasn't the most shocking part. He was surrounded. 4 German shepherds stood around him in a loose circle, all silent, not aggressive, not afraid. At the center, closest to Ben, was Rex, standing guard. One of the dogs, a scarred, older male, stood at the 12 o'clock position, head lowered, eyes sharp. Another, younger and lean, shifted but didn't break formation. "They're guarding him," whispered the medic. "What the hell?" one ranger breathed. "No tags, no collars. Where'd they come from?" Tina said. No one answered. She raised her walkie. "Dispatch, we've located Wyatt. He's alive. Unconscious, requesting immediate evac to Ridge Clinic. And we have a situation." "Copy that. What kind of situation?" She stared at the dogs. Rex glanced back at her and growled once. Softly. "German shepherds. 4 of them. Surrounding Ben. And I think they saved his life." 30 minutes later, the evac team arrived. When the chopper blades whipped through the air and medics moved in, none of the dogs moved. Not even when strangers approached. Rex barked once. Sharp and short. The older shepherd stepped back. The others followed. Only then did they allow the team to reach Ben. "He's got a concussion. Arms fractured," said the medic, checking his vitals. "He's lucky to be breathing." Tina glanced at Rex. "Yeah," she said. "He is." By dusk, a viral video was already circulating. Forest ranger found unconscious, surrounded by dogs. It came from a bystander's phone. Blurry, but clear enough. 4 German shepherds. 1 man. A moment frozen in time. Theories exploded online. Feral pack raised by wolves? Military dogs gone rogue? Angels in disguise? But at Rockridge Outpost, as Tina sat with a cup of burnt coffee, staring at the footage again, she didn't care what the internet said. She rewound to one moment. Rex stepping between Ben's body and a ranger who got too close. Rex barking, not in panic, but command. She leaned back. "These weren't strays," she said to herself. This was something else. A choice. A memory. A message. And they'd just begun to scratch the surface. Ben stirred in the hospital bed. His eyelids twitched, the hum of fluorescent lights overhead blending with the soft rhythm of the heart monitor. Every muscle screamed. His shoulder was wrapped tight, ribs bruised, and a throbbing ache pulsed behind his left eye. But he was alive. He blinked once, then again. A familiar shape sat in the corner of the room. "Rex?" His voice cracked. The German shepherd lifted his head, ears twitching. Ben reached out weakly. Rex crossed the room in 2 strides and placed his chin gently on Ben's palm. "You found me," Ben whispered. Rex gave one slow wag of his tail. The door opened. Tina Lawrence stepped in, coffee in hand, followed by an older man in a brown jacket with a wildlife patch on the sleeve. "You're lucky, McAllister," she said. "Real lucky." Ben tried to sit up but winced. "What happened out there? I remember ice, then nothing." Tina pulled up a chair. "You fell. Rolled down the slope near Cam 42. Knocked yourself out cold. Broken arm, concussion. Hypothermia was setting in when we found you." Ben frowned. "How'd you find me so fast?" Tina exchanged a glance with the older man. "Rex led us, but that's not the weird part." She pulled out a tablet and tapped a video. It played in silence. The footage showed the clearing. 4 dogs, all German shepherds, forming a perfect arc around Ben's body. "I don't understand," Ben said. "They weren't wild. They weren't aggressive," she said. "They acted like sentries. They protected you," added the older man. "Name's Jonah. Retired handler, K9 Corps. The moment I saw that footage, I knew. Those weren't strays. They were trained. Military." Ben stared at the screen. One of the dogs, an older shepherd with a scar across his nose, stood beside Rex. "Where are they now?" "Gone," Tina said. "Disappeared after the evac. No tracks. No collars. Vanished like ghosts." Jonah leaned forward. "Except they left something." He opened a small evidence pouch and slid it across the table. Inside was a faded leather tag. Military issue. Barely legible. "Unit 12K, Sierra Project, disbanded, classified." Ben's heart skipped. "Rex, you weren't alone, were you?" The dog's gaze didn't waver. Jonah nodded slowly. "Your boy isn't just a search and rescue dog. He was one of them. That scar on his side? That's shrapnel. Surgical. Military vet for sure." Tina leaned in. "The others, they weren't random. They came for a reason. And I think you're part of it." Later that night, Ben couldn't sleep. He watched Rex lying by the window, alert despite the calm. His mind raced. Why now? Why did trained dogs, ones the military considered lost, show up just when he needed saving? The next morning, Back at Rockridge HQ, something else surfaced. Tina entered holding a printout. Trail cam footage from 2 days before your fall. She slapped the photo on the table. 4 figures, German shepherds, walking single file along Trail 17. Same dogs? Ben nodded. They were already there, watching. And now they're gone, she said. Ben shook his head. No, they're not gone. They're watching. Jonah appeared in the doorway, holding an old binder. I did some digging, he said. There was a program, Black Level K9 Unit, off-the-books stuff, dogs trained to operate in extreme terrain without direct handlers. Sierra Project, designed for autonomous missions, pulled from circulation after a mission in northern Afghanistan went wrong. Ben narrowed his eyes. They left them behind? Jonah nodded. Some made it out. 1 went feral, 1 vanished, 2 were assumed dead. He tapped the binder. But if this footage is right, they're not dead. They're here, and they came for Rex. Tina crossed her arms. Why now? Ben stared at the screen, replaying the scene in his mind. I don't know, he said. But if they're alive, and they're looking for something, it's not over. Jonah's voice dropped. There's one more thing. He pulled out a black envelope marked Restricted. Inside was a photograph, not of the dogs, of Ben, standing in a desert, in uniform. Where did you get this? Ben asked. Jonah didn't answer. Why is this classified? Tina leaned in, confused. You were military? Ben's face hardened. That was a long time ago. Jonah looked him dead in the eye. Then maybe it's time to remember what you were part of. Ben turned to Rex. The shepherd watched him silently, unwavering. There was more to this, and the forest hadn't given up its secrets yet. Rex had returned to where he once belonged. Now it was Ben's turn. Ben stood at the edge of Trail 17, his boots sinking into the soft earth. The forest was quiet, too quiet. Birds had gone silent, even the wind held its breath. Rex trotted a few steps ahead, ears high, nose twitching. There was tension in the air, not fear, anticipation. The ranger station had let Ben out on temporary leave. He didn't ask. He didn't explain. He needed answers, and this trail was the only place to start. Beside him, Jonah adjusted the strap on his old field pack, his weathered face unreadable. You sure you're up for this? Jonah asked. Ben didn't respond. His eyes were locked on a patch of flattened grass. Paw prints. Not fresh, but unmistakable. Same pattern? Ben muttered. They were here again. Jonah crouched and touched the edge of a print. Size matches the alpha, probably the one with the scar. You remember the formation? Ben nodded. Rex stood at my left, scarred one to the right, 2 younger ones behind. It wasn't chance. It was military. They were covering the perimeter, Jonah said. Just like we trained them. No holes, no gaps. Ben looked up. So why now? Why did they come back here after all these years? Jonah didn't answer. He pulled a small device from his coat. It looked like a radio, but sleeker. A signal reader. What's that? Something old. Picks up encrypted RFID signals, used to track black ops dogs in the field. He turned the dial. Static. Then a ping. A short, repeating tone. Jonah froze. That's not from Rex. Ben's pulse spiked. Which direction? Jonah pointed northeast. They followed the signal. Through thick brush, across a dry creek bed, over a rusted wire fence. The tone grew stronger. Rex stopped. He growled low in his throat. Ears back. Eyes forward. Ben ducked, motioning to Jonah. They crawled through a thicket and came to a clearing. And there it was. An old cabin, collapsed in on itself. Barely more than a pile of wood and stone. But something about it held weight. Rex stayed low, tail stiff. Jonah swept the signal reader. "It's here," he whispered. "One of them, maybe two." Ben moved cautiously. His boots crunched over brittle pine needles. Then he saw it, something glinting beneath a slab of collapsed roofing. He pulled it free. A tracking collar, charred, scarred, still blinking. "Unit 12K, Ben whispered. Another ping, this time louder, closer. Rex spun around and barked. Once. Sharp. A shape moved between the trees. Then another. Then four. All German shepherds. Silent. Controlled. They emerged from the woods like ghosts, circling just beyond the cabin's edge. Jonah stood slowly, his voice firm. "At ease." The dogs didn't move, but Rex stepped forward. He barked again, low and deliberate. One of the shepherds, a younger one with a patchy coat, barked back. Then another stepped forward. The alpha, the one with the scar. Ben took a step forward. "You came back." The alpha tilted his head. Ben knelt, slowly reaching into his jacket. From the inside pocket, he pulled an old dog tag. His own. Worn. Faded. "I know you," he said. "We were on the same soil once." The alpha stepped forward. 1 pace. 2. Then stopped. Silence. Then movement. The alpha sat. The rest followed. Jonah's voice was barely audible. "They're submitting." "No," Ben said. "They're waiting." A sharp crack echoed through the trees. Gunfire. Everyone froze. A second shot, closer this time. The dogs stood. Rex growled. Ben ducked instinctively. "That wasn't random." Jonah was already moving. "Back! Back to the ridge!" But it was too late. 2 figures emerged from the tree line. Black fatigues, no insignia, rifles raised. "Don't move!" one shouted. Ben raised his hands slowly. "We're unarmed." The man stepped forward, his face hidden behind mirrored shades. "Then you won't mind handing over the dog." Ben's voice went cold. "Which one?" The man smirked. "All of them." Jonah shifted. "You don't work for Wildlife Services." "No," the man said. "But we clean up their messes." One of the shepherds growled. The other man lifted his rifle. Rex lunged, but not at the soldiers. He tackled Ben, just as a dart shot from the rifle and embedded in a tree behind him. "Tranquilizers," Jonah spat. "They're trying to take them alive." Ben rolled and came up behind a tree. "Why?" "No idea. But they want them bad." More darts flew. 2 of the unknown shepherds scattered into the woods. The alpha barked once and held position. Jonah pulled a flare from his bag. "Get ready." He lit it and hurled it into the center of the clearing. Smoke burst out, red and blinding. "Move!" Jonah yelled. They ran. Rex at Ben's sidecarn, the alpha close behind. They didn't stop until the pings faded, the voices were gone, and the forest swallowed the clearing whole. Ben dropped to one knee, panting. Rex licked his hand once. Jonah stood beside him, pale. "They weren't just dogs," he said. "They were targets." Ben nodded slowly. "And someone's hunting them." They looked at Rex. He wasn't panting, wasn't afraid. He was watching the trees. Like he knew the fight had just begun. The safe house wasn't on any map. It was buried deep in the Cascades, past fire roads and forgotten timber trails. Ben had first found it years ago during survival training. Just a concrete shell, no power, no signal. Now it was their only shot at breathing space. Rex pushed the door open with his snout. The others followed. 3 German shepherds, silent as shadows. The alpha was last, eyes scanning the woods before he stepped inside. Jonah shut the steel latch behind them. Inside, it smelled of rust and pine. Dust floated in the air, disturbed only by the dog's movement. Ben leaned against the wall, clutching his ribs. They were bruised, maybe cracked, from the fall during the chase. He didn't care. "What the hell was that back there?" Jonah finally asked. "They weren't hunters," Ben said. "They were ex-military. Clean gear, coordinated. The kind of men who know how to disappear." Jonah lit a single gas lamp. "You think they're here for Rex?" "No," Ben said. "They're here for all of them. But Rex is the key." As if on cue, Rex sat in front of them. Eyes locked, tail still. Ben looked at him. "You know why they're after you, don't you?" Rex didn't move. Jonah sat on a crate. There's a reason he led them to that clearing. They weren't following him. They were responding. To what? Ben reached into his bag and pulled out an old dossier, one he was never supposed to keep. Project Vanguard. Decommissioned Black Ops K9 units. Trained for infiltration, rescue, recon, classified. Jonah frowned. Thought that program was shut down. Officially, yes, but I've got a name now. One handler survived the last op and disappeared. Captain Adam Voss. Jonah's eyes narrowed. "You think Voss is behind this?" "I think Voss trained these dogs. I think Rex was one of his." Ben flipped open a folder. Inside were old photos, German shepherds, rigged with advanced comm gear. One of them, unmistakably Rex, younger and leaner, mouth open in mid-snarl. Jonah leaned closer. "If that's him, he's not just retired. He's off book." Rex growled low. A sudden beep broke the silence. The radio Jonah had dropped earlier, long dead, blinked red. Then a voice crackled through. "Jackson! If you can hear this, they know where you are." Ben grabbed it. "Who is this?" Static. Then the voice again, urgent. "They're coming. 2 hours, less if they're pushing." The signal cut. Jonah stared at Ben. "How?" "No time," Ben said. "Pack up. We leave in 15. Rex stood, barking once. The other shepherds snapped to attention. But then, from outside, movement. A branch cracked. Rex bolted to the door, snarling. Ben raised a hand. "Wait." Footsteps. A silhouette at the tree line. Ben reached for the old rifle leaning against the wall. Then the figure stepped into the clearing. Hands raised, female, drenched from the rain, wounded. "Don't shoot!" she called. "I'm not with them." Jonah squinted. "Who the hell—" "Name's Avery," she said. "I was a contractor on Vanguard. Tech Ops." Ben lowered the rifle. "How'd you find us?" She held up a small black disc. "Your signal pinged the old grid. Only someone inside the system could have tracked it, which means so can they." She stumbled forward, blood on her shoulder. Rex sniffed her once, growled, then sat. "She's clean," Ben said. "Get inside." Jonah locked the door behind her. Avery collapsed into a chair, breath shallow. "They're not just hunting the dogs," she gasped. "They're trying to erase everything. Voss sold the Vanguard units, not decommissioned, trafficked, military-grade obedience, perfect for Merc contracts, private security, cartel cleanups." Ben's blood ran cold. "You're saying they're slaves?" "They're assets," Avery said. Until they disobey, like Rex did. Jonah sat down hard. Jesus. Rex stood in the center of the room, tail rigid. They'll kill them all to cover it up, Avery said. Especially the Alpha. He's the last to carry the genetic marker from Phase 3. Ben turned to Rex. Why did you break protocol? Rex stepped forward, sat, and tilted his head. Ben whispered, Because you remembered who you were. Suddenly, outside, the sound of tires on gravel, headlights through the trees. Avery sat up. Too late. They're here. Jonah reached for the flare launcher. Ben pulled Rex close. You ready? Rex growled once, deep and steady. The Alpha barked. Then all 4 shepherds moved, flanking the cabin. Ben turned to Jonah. Time to show them what Ghost Protocol really means. Jonah grinned. Let's burn this place into their memory. Outside, shadows closed in. But inside, something ancient stirred. Not rage, not fear. Loyalty. The wind howled like a warning through the trees outside the cabin. The rain had slowed, but the pressure in the air tightened like a drawn bow. Ben knew what was coming. So did Rex. Jonah slipped into the corner, rifle ready, eyes locked on the narrow slit window. Avery worked quickly at the small desk, fingers flying over the tablet screen, the only glow in the room. They're running ghost frequencies, she said. No comms, no drones, old-school approach. They're closing in on foot. How many? Ben asked. 6, maybe 7. Split formation. They'll flank us. Ben exhaled. Then we don't wait. Rex stood by the door, motionless. His ears twitched once. The Alpha stepped next to him. Their eyes met. No sound passed between them, but the decision was made. Rex, hold perimeter. We hit hard, disappear fast. Jonah loaded the last round. We can't outgun them. We don't need to, Ben said. We outthink them. He turned to Avery. Get the uplink ready. Once the EMP triggers, dump everything. Full data release. Video, dossiers, logs. Let the world see. She hesitated. You realize once I send that, we're not ghosts anymore. We're targets. Ben locked eyes with her. We already are. The first shot cracked through the silence. A suppressor pop. The front window exploded. Jonah hit the ground. They're early. Ben shoved the table over for cover. Go loud! Rex bolted through the rear hatch with the Alpha and the 2 other shepherds, silent as shadows, flanking the perimeter. Outside, flashlights cut the fog. A figure, in tactical gear, moved through the brush. Precise, methodical. His boot landed near a tripwire just as Rex lunged from the side. The takedown was surgical. No bark, no warning, just force and precision. Inside, Avery tapped the screen. Uploading now! Backdoor it, Ben ordered. Use Voss's signature. Make it look like an internal leak. She smirked. Now you're thinking dirty. Another shot ripped through the wall. Wood splinters flew. Jonah returned fire. We're boxed in. Not yet, Ben said, yanking open a trap door. Tunnel out back. Used for snowpack emergencies. Get her out. What about you? Ben grabbed the remaining gear. I'm buying time. Rex returned, blood on his jaw, eyes locked. He trotted to Ben's side without hesitation. You ready? Ben whispered. Rex growled low and steady. The Alpha returned too, tail high, breathing calm. The other 2 German shepherds flanked the path, already forming a line. Jonah helped Avery into the tunnel. Move fast, straight down to the river. Signal extraction when clear. Avery stopped. He's staying? Jonah looked back at Ben. He's not alone. Ben stepped into the storm. Fog rolled thick over the field. Shapes emerged, black-clad, faceless. Mercenaries. Ben raised his hands. You know who I am. You know what I have. A voice called out from the dark. That's why we're here. Then you also know what happens if I go down. Silence. Then the voice again. We'll take our chances. Ben smirked. So will we. Rex launched first, out of the fog, claws and teeth. Chaos. The Alpha struck next, direct to the left flank. Screams tore through the trees. Ben dropped one with a clean shot, ducked, rolled behind a stump. Fire returned in bursts, too controlled. These weren't freelancers. They were trained. But Rex didn't care about training. He hit one of them like a missile, forcing the man's weapon to fire wildly into the air. The second shepherd tackled another at the knees, dragging him into the mud. In the confusion, Ben made his move, tossed the EMP grenade toward the tree line and ducked. Flash. Pulse. Silence. Every headset, every digital scope, every comm link. Dead. Then came the howls. Not of pain, of fear. Rex stood atop a fallen merc, eyes glowing in the low firelight, blood on his snout, his chest heaving. He didn't bark. He didn't need to. The last two attackers backed up, but it was too late. The Alpha was behind them. They dropped their weapons. Ben approached, rifle lowered. Tell Voss, he said, breath ragged. We're not afraid of ghosts. One man, pale and shaking, whispered, He's not in charge anymore. Ben froze. Then who is? The man looked at Rex. He is. For a moment, time stopped. Then the Alpha stepped forward, nudged Rex. Rex stood taller. Ben's heart skipped. You're saying they turned on Voss? Some of them, the man whispered. Not all. From the woods, a final sound, a single crack. A sniper. Ben dropped instantly, but the bullet never hit. Rex leapt, intercepted it mid-flight, his body twisting, landing hard. Ben screamed. No! He crawled over, hands shaking, but Rex moved. Slowly, painfully, still alive. Ben pressed his head to Rex's. You stubborn son of a... Rex licked his chin. Behind them, the Alpha stood watch. The last attackers vanished into the trees. Silence again, except for breath. And heartbeats. Avery's voice crackled over Jonah's radio. Upload complete. It's done. The world knows. Ben looked at Rex. You didn't just protect me. You started something. And deep in the woods, every German shepherd still loyal to the code felt it too. The rebellion had begun. The morning after the ambush was dead quiet. No birdsong, no rustling trees, just the low hum of tension clinging to the forest like fog. Ben sat on the porch of a ranger outpost far from the trail. His ribs ached. His knuckles were raw. And Rex lay at his feet, chest rising slow but steady, a thick bandage across his side. You're lucky, Jonah muttered, stirring powdered coffee over a flame. That round should have ended him. Ben nodded without speaking. His hand absently stroked Rex's fur, fingers tracing old scars beneath the new wound. Across the table, Avery scrolled through her device. We triggered something, she said. That upload hit harder than expected. It's not just chatter now. There's movement. Dozens of anonymous logins, half a dozen digital trails heading back to federal systems, internal ones. Ben leaned forward. You're saying someone inside took notice? Avery met his gaze. Not just someone. A group. They call themselves Emberlight. Off-grid, whistleblowers, watchdogs. They've been trying to expose Voss's program for years. Jonah raised an eyebrow. You trust them? No, she said. But they sent us something. A location. Said if we want proof that what we saw with the shepherds isn't isolated, we'll find it there. Ben looked down at Rex, whose eyes blinked once in silent agreement. Where? South Ridge, old training compound, abandoned years ago. On record, anyway. Ben stood. Then we go. Jonah cursed. Of course we do. They left by noon. The path was rough, half washed out by spring rains, the trees leaning too close together. The place felt like it didn't want to be found. They reached the edge by late afternoon. The compound was mostly ruins, collapsed walls, rusted gates, vines creeping through broken windows. But one thing stood untouched. A kennel. Clean. Maintained. Locked. Ben approached slowly. Rex moved beside him, slower than usual, but alert. Inside the kennel was a single dog. Large. Still. Ears up. A German shepherd. Its eyes followed Ben's every step. Then something clicked. A soft metallic hiss. A voice came through a hidden speaker. You shouldn't have come. Ben froze. Voss? No. Voss is off the board. You knew too much. You pushed him too far. Now the cleanup falls to me. Who the hell are you? The one who designed the leash you thought you cut. The door behind them slammed shut. Gas hissed from vents. Back! Ben shouted. Rex lunged at the door, teeth and claws against steel. Jonah fired around at the vent. Missed. Avery grabbed a toolkit, started ripping at a wall panel. Ben turned to the dog in the kennel. Is that one of yours? He yelled into the air. The voice returned, colder. That one was meant to replace Rex. Faster, stronger, fully obedient. Ben growled. Obedience isn't loyalty. Then, without warning, the locked kennel door swung open. The new shepherd stepped out, stiff-legged. Ben lifted his weapon, but Rex stepped forward, placing himself between them. Rex, Ben whispered. Don't. The two dogs stared at each other, not growling, not snarling, just watching. Then Rex took a step closer. He sniffed the younger shepherd's muzzle. A pause. And then Rex whined, softly, like a memory surfacing. The other shepherd's ears twitched. His muscles relaxed. Avery cracked the panel open and yanked a power line free. The gas shut off. Jonah threw his shoulder into the rear door. It didn't budge. Then the younger shepherd, silent until now, lunged forward, slamming into the same spot. Steel creaked. Ben joined them. Together! With a final push, the door burst open. They staggered out into the open air. Ben coughed hard, waving off the smoke. He looked down. Rex and the other shepherd were side by side, facing the woods. Jonah stared. You seeing this? Ben nodded. They didn't train him. Rex woke him up. The younger shepherd turned to Ben. No growl, no retreat. Just eyes waiting. Ben smiled. You coming with us? The dog trotted forward. Back in the cabin, Avery decrypted the last piece of data from Emberlight. A dossier. One with photos, names, charts, and one chilling section labeled Control Protocol, Tier 2 Awakening. Rex isn't the only one, she said. There were dozens, scattered, hidden, obedient. But they all share one thing. When Rex went off grid, something started triggering across the net. Ben stared at the photo on the last page. It wasn't of a soldier. It was of a boy, 10 years old, playing in a yard. Behind him, a German shepherd sat watch. Labeled Subject 17. Assigned unit, Rex. Ben's stomach twisted. That's me. Avery blinked. What? I thought Rex found me by accident, all this time, but he was there. Assigned. Programmed. Jonah looked at Rex, then at Ben. So what does that make him? Ben knelt beside the dog. Rex leaned in, nose against Ben's heart. I don't care what they planned. Ben whispered. He chose me. That's real. Outside, the younger shepherd lifted his nose to the air. In the distance, howls responded. Not wolves, others, coming awake and coming home. The morning air was sharp, scented with pine and something older. Ben drove north in silence, the younger shepherd curled in the back seat, Rex riding shotgun like he'd done 100 times before. But this time felt different, like something was closing in or waking up. We're being watched, Rex's eyes seemed to say. Not afraid, just certain. Avery had traced another ember light signal to a remote surveillance bunker just outside Eagle Rock. They were getting bolder, reaching out more often, sending encrypted fragments. Names, coordinates, phrases like handler protocol suspended and Tier 2 anomaly detected. Ben pulled off the main road and onto a dirt path swallowed by trees. 20 minutes later, the SUV rolled to a stop in front of what looked like an old fire lookout tower. Weathered wood, broken railings, but electricity still flowed. A camera tracked them as they approached. Rex growled low. It's all right, boy. Ben whispered. We're here because of you. Inside, the air was stale. Dust clung to cables and exposed servers. A tall man sat at the back of the room, typing. Early 40s, grey buzz cut, eyes that had seen war. You brought both of them, he said without turning. Ben froze. You're from Emberlight? The man finally stood, hands raised. Name's Caleb, former K9 Ops. I used to train them. He nodded at Rex. Didn't think I'd ever see you again. Rex didn't move, but his tail stiffened. Recognition. You worked with him? Ben asked. Caleb nodded slowly. I helped design the neural imprinting they used in Tier 1. Rex wasn't supposed to bond. He was supposed to follow commands. Then one day he stopped obeying, refused to maul a target, looked the handler in the eye and just waited. Ben crossed his arms. So they labeled him defective. They tried to put him down, Caleb said, voice dark. He escaped. Found you. Ben's throat tightened. That wasn't chance, was it? The house fire. The rescue. Caleb shook his head. No. He broke protocol. Searched for you. Your photo was buried in his training database. You were his fail-safe. Ben turned to Rex. You knew me, before I knew you. Rex looked up, unwavering. Then Caleb pulled up a feed on the main monitor. There's more. Last night we picked up a low-frequency ping. Old signal. Military grade. Location matches a decommissioned facility east of here. Avery leaned in. What kind of facility? Containment, Caleb replied. And activation. Jonah, leaning by the door, asked the obvious. Activation of what? Caleb clicked a key. The screen filled with video stills, dozens of shepherds, in cages, some standing, some lying still, all tagged. Rex growled, loud. Ben's pulse spiked. They're alive? Sedated. Barely. But someone is preparing to wake them up. My guess, to wipe them clean and sell them to the highest bidder. Private armies? Avery muttered. Caleb nodded. Not just dogs. Weapons trained to kill without question. Unless... Ben stepped closer. Unless they remember. That's where Rex comes in, Caleb said. He's the anomaly. The proof that instinct can override programming. If the others wake and see him, there's a chance they'll choose to follow him instead of orders. Or tear us apart, Jonah muttered. We don't have time to debate, Ben said. Where's the site? Caleb handed over a hand-drawn map. You'll need to move fast. They're cycling the system tonight. Once the reboot finishes, everything gets wiped. Memory, personality, autonomy. Ben looked to Rex. You ready? Rex stood tall, gaze locked. We do this now, Ben said. They reached the perimeter by nightfall. The compound sat quiet behind a ridge. Watchtowers dead. No guards. But the silence was heavy, like something coiled. Jonah spotted the breach point. Avery hacked the gate. Caleb stayed behind to run interference on the grid. Ben, Jonah, and Avery moved fast through the halls. The younger shepherd led the way, nose to the floor. Then, down a narrow tunnel, they found it. A room of cages. Dozens of German shepherds, massive, muzzled, tagged. Rex stepped forward. A few heads lifted. Most stayed still, half-conscious. Then a soft beep. A control panel lit up red. A voice echoed over a loudspeaker. Not Voss, but familiar. Reset sequence initiated. Tier 2 awakening in progress. Program overwrite commencing. A steel door slammed behind them. Trap! Jonah shouted. Gunfire burst from the vents. Armed guards rushed in from the flanks. Ben dove behind a crate. Avery grabbed her sidearm. Rex launched like a missile. Straight at the nearest guard, the younger shepherd followed, fast and brutal. Chaos. Screams, barks, muffled explosions. One by one, cages began to open. The dogs stepped out, dazed, confused. Then Rex barked. Once, loud, commanding. Every dog froze. He walked slowly through them, nose touching a few, looking each one in the eyes. A moment passed. Then the muzzles dropped. Literally, as if something broke inside them. One by one the shepherds turned, not on the intruders, but on the guards. The fight ended in less than a minute. Silence fell again. Ben stood, bloodied, breath ragged. He looked at Rex, now surrounded by a dozen freed shepherds. They weren't growling. They weren't scanning for orders. They were waiting. Caleb's voice crackled in over comms. I don't believe it. He woke them. Ben smiled. No, he reminded them. Avery stepped beside him, blinking back tears. Rex didn't start a war. He started a revolution. And deep in that compound, under blinking red lights, history rewrote itself, one pawprint at a time. The wind screamed through the pines as Ben, Avery, and Jonah pushed through the forest, 12 German shepherds trotting behind them, heads low, ears twitching. Rex led the pack like a silent commander, movements sharp and certain. They'd escaped the compound with less than 2 minutes to spare. But the mission wasn't over. They'll come after us, Jonah warned, adjusting his shoulder strap. They have names, faces, video. No, Avery said, glancing at Rex. They have ghosts. That's what scares them. They reached the edge of a cliff overlooking the valley. Distant sirens howled behind them, search drones, not rescue. Ben turned to Caleb, who was leaning against a tree, breath ragged. We have to go public. Caleb shook his head. You don't get it. This was just one site. There are others, dozens. You put this out there, they'll bury it. Or us. Ben looked at Rex. They tried burying him, too. A faint chirp came from Avery's phone. A message blinked to life. Unknown sender. One line of text. Whitaker Initiative reactivated. Her face paled. They're not just trying to recapture the dogs, they're reactivating the handlers. Jonah stepped forward. Like sleeper agents? Caleb nodded grimly. Exactly. Those handlers weren't just trainers, they were embedded operatives. And if they're waking them up, this isn't just about the shepherds anymore. It's about control. Ben's chest tightened. Where's the next site? Caleb tapped into a secured satellite relay. A heat map flared to life. One signal glowed hotter than the rest. An underground lab in Idaho. This one's not decommissioned. Caleb muttered. It's live. Suddenly a burst of static crackled over their emergency comm. Then a distorted voice. Ranger Ben Wyatt, you've been marked. Return the shepherds, or face public consequences. The transmission cut. Ben stared into the dark woods. They're not bluffing. Avery frowned. What's the plan? Ben looked down at Rex. Rex stared back, calm, steady, almost human. We go in, Ben said. All of us. One last time. The Idaho facility sat buried beneath a mountain, cloaked by an abandoned mining operation. Getting in meant navigating 3 levels of steel, cameras, and guards armed to the teeth. But they had an edge. Memory. Ben turned to the shepherds before they entered the outer perimeter. No more cages. No more collars. You fight for you now. Rex let out one bark. The others followed. The echo rumbled like thunder down the ridge. They moved fast, silent. 2 guards were neutralized before they could raise alarms. Jonah disarmed the control panel. Avery uploaded a scrambler to fry the interior comms. They pushed deeper. Then everything changed. The hallway lights turned red. A hiss of compressed air. Metal doors slammed behind them. And from the far end of the corridor, figures emerged. 5 men in black gear, helmets, visors, and at their heels, shepherds. But not like Rex's pack. These were unblinking, mechanical, engineered for war. Tier 0, Caleb whispered, horror in his voice. Pure obedience, no emotion. The room stood still. Then chaos exploded. The Tier 0 dogs launched forward, precision strikes, lethal speed. Ben ducked, rolled, felt jaws snap inches from his neck. Rex tackled one midair, pinning it, snarling in its face. One of the Tier 0 handlers raised a remote. Rex twitched, just for a second. Ben saw it. No! He shouted. Fight it! Rex shook his head once, then lunged. The remote clattered to the floor. Rex bit through wires in a blink. The rest of the pack rallied. The Tier 0 shepherds faltered, confused. Rex stood tall, eyes on them. He growled, not in anger, but in command. And something impossible happened. The Tier 0 dogs stopped, paused, then dropped their heads. Submission. Even the handlers looked stunned. One muttered, They're sinking. That's not supposed to happen. Rex barked again. Low. Final. And the Tier 0 dogs turned. On their handlers. It was over in seconds. They didn't destroy the facility. They didn't need to. Caleb uploaded the raw data into the cloud, exposing everything. Experiments, tracking logs, names. Avery released the files to a dozen independent watchdog groups, then erased her trace. Jonah wiped the servers, burned the backups, left a single message behind. You trained them to obey. They chose to protect. They left the mountain as the sun broke through the clouds. Rex ran ahead, not chasing anything, just running free. His pack followed. Ben looked at him, eyes misted. He never belonged in a cage, he said. No, Caleb replied. He belonged in history. But the battle wasn't over. It had just begun. The air outside the facility was different now, thinner, colder, as if the mountain itself was holding its breath. Ben Wyatt crouched at the tree line, eyes scanning the low horizon. Behind him, the pack stayed silent, still reeling from what had just happened inside. Rex stood closest, body tense, ears flicking at every sound. Then came the voice, soft but clear. "You're not finished." A man stepped out of the trees. Older, calm, unarmed. Rex bristled. Ben stood, fists clenched. "You followed us." "No," the man said, hands raised. "I was here before you arrived." Avery stepped beside Ben. "Who are you?" The man looked at Rex. "Name's Dorian Hale, handler first class. I trained Rex, before they shut it down." Rex growled low, not in hate, in warning. Ben didn't lower his stance. "If you're one of them, I'm not." Dorian cut in. "Not anymore. I walked away the day they made us sign the obedience clause." Caleb narrowed his eyes. "That clause was sealed under Section 14. Black budget." Dorian nodded. "Exactly. They buried it. The world doesn't know what those dogs were built for. But I do. I helped build them." A wave of silence passed through the group. Even Jonah, who usually had something snarky to say, stayed quiet. Dorian stepped forward, carefully. "Rex was different. You all know that. He wasn't just trained. He was chosen. That bond you have with him now, he had that with me once, before Whitaker tore it apart." Ben looked down at Rex. The shepherd met his gaze. No fear, no uncertainty, just loyalty. Avery stepped closer. "Why now?" Dorian pulled a small flash drive from his coat. "Because the initiative isn't just reactivated. It's splintered." He dropped the drive in Ben's hand. 3 teams, 1 in Alaska, 1 in West Texas, 1 right here. They're building something new. Smaller, smarter, crueler. AI integration, biofeedback loops, emotion suppression. No handler needed. Caleb cursed under his breath. "So they're replacing us. They're replacing them." Dorian corrected, nodding toward Rex. "No more German shepherds, no more natural bond. Just machines that look like dogs, but operate like drones." Ben looked around. "We have to stop it, all of it." Dorian exhaled. "There's one site left that holds the command codes. Without them, the other bases can't activate the neural sync. It's in Utah, hidden inside a wildlife sanctuary. They're using the forest as cover." Ben's voice was steel. "Then that's where we go." Dorian looked at Rex again. "If you bring him there, you'll be hunted. They'll know. They'll come with everything they've got." Rex stepped forward, looked the old handler in the eye, then sat beside Ben. It was an answer. A vow. Dorian smiled, not with joy, but respect. "He still remembers." Jonah rubbed his hands together. "So what's the plan?" Caleb flipped open his laptop. "We go tonight. I can spoof their trackers. But we'll need a distraction." Avery raised her hand. "I can pull fire teams from 3 other ranger districts, fake wildlife fires. They'll scatter." Ben nodded. "We'll enter through the eastern ridge. Quiet, fast." Dorian added, "One more thing. If you get to the command hub, there's a fail-safe, hardwired. If you pull it, you won't just shut them down. You'll wipe every linked handler code, including Rex's." Ben froze. "You mean, it'll sever everything? His training, his memory, maybe even the bond?" The group fell silent. Ben looked at Rex. Would he survive it? "No one knows," Dorian said. "It was never tested. But if you don't pull it, they'll use that code to enslave every shepherd like him. Forever." Rex didn't flinch. Ben placed a hand on Rex's back. I won't let them turn you into a weapon. Avery stepped up. Then we make this count? That night, under cover of a moonless sky, the team moved through the pines toward Utah. Every footstep on frozen leaves felt like a countdown. Every gust of wind whispered warnings. Ben kept Rex close. You ready? Rex gave one bark, low, controlled, like a soldier, like a friend. And together, they vanished into the dark. The final mission had begun. The Utah sky cracked with lightning as the team stood at the forest's edge. Wind howled through the trees like ghosts warning them to turn back. But Ben Wyatt didn't flinch. Neither did Rex. Behind them, Avery checked her comms. Distractions up. Fire teams engaged. We've got a 30-minute window, Max. Caleb closed his laptop. Turrets offline, but once we cross the boundary, they'll know. Ben looked down at Rex. No turning back now, buddy. Rex bumped his nose against Ben's palm. Quiet strength. Trust. Unshaken. The forest swallowed them whole. Branches snapped underfoot as they crept through dense underbrush. The sanctuary, really a covert tech facility, rose like a buried steel beast hidden in the trees. Ivy-covered fencing, half-buried solar towers. But inside, the neural command hub, the place where it all began. A keypad blinked near the utility entrance. Jonah stepped up, fingers flying. Give me 15 seconds. He got them in 7. Inside it was colder. Metal walls, sterile air. No signs of wildlife, only hums of machines. Avery whispered, Security? Minimal. They didn't expect humans, only ghosts. Ben led them down the corridor, following Dorian's map burned into his memory. Every step felt like walking on a thread pulled tight by time. Then, from behind, shouts. We've got movement. They found us. Caleb hissed. Go. Ben ordered. We hold the hall. You and Rex get to the core. Jonah and Avery split off, weapons drawn, ready to cover the escape. Ben ran. The hallway pulsed with red lights now. Alarms blared. But Rex never hesitated. He stayed by Ben's side, muscles coiled, ready. They reached the mainframe chamber, a massive room filled with blinking servers and one steel column at the center. At its base, a panel, the fail-safe. Dorian's words rang in Ben's head. If you pull it, you might lose him. Ben hesitated. And that's when the doors burst open. Whitaker, wounded, bleeding, but alive, and armed. You just couldn't leave it alone, he sneered. Ben raised his hands. It's over. No, it's just starting. He lifted his gun, but before he could aim, Rex launched, a blur of fur and fury. The impact knocked Whitaker flat. Gun skittered across the floor. But he wasn't done. He pulled a hidden blade, slashed. Blood hit the floor. Rex yelped but didn't back down. Ben dove, tackling Whitaker. They struggled. Grunts. Fists. Pain. Then finally, one swing. Whitaker hit the ground, out cold. Ben turned to Rex. He was bleeding from his side but still standing. Barely. Ben dropped to his knees. Rex, you with me? Rex licked his hand, weak but clear. Then Ben faced the panel. One pull. All the control systems, every override, every encrypted protocol, gone. And with it, maybe Rex. Ben whispered, I'm sorry. He pulled. The lights surged. Sparks flew. The entire system shut down. The facility went black. Silence. Then, Rex wobbled, collapsed. Ben caught him. No. Rex, stay with me. He pressed his head against Rex's. Come on, you've survived worse. Please. A beat, then a breath. Soft, then another. Rex opened one eye. Ben laughed, choked, cried. You stubborn legend. Rex barked once, weak but real. Behind them, the team arrived. Injured, bruised, alive. Caleb smiled. Did we win? Ben looked at Rex. Yeah, we did. 1 month later, the government released a quiet statement. The Shepherd Initiative had been terminated. The files sealed, the dogs retired, but the world knew the truth, because someone leaked the footage. Not of the battle, but of Rex. Standing over Ben's unconscious body, surrounded by other German shepherds who had come, uncommanded, uncalled, to protect one of their own. The clip went viral, and with it, a question. What do we really know about loyalty? Ben didn't return to ranger work. He moved to a small cabin in Colorado. Open fields, no fences. Rex lived out his days there. Free, respected, a legend. And every now and then people came, with their own stories, of dogs that saved them, dogs that remembered, dogs like Rex. So what's your story with a loyal pet? Drop it in the comments. Share the bond. Honor the heroes. And if you believe German shepherds are more than just dogs, if you know their family, subscribe to our channel, because we tell their stories, the ones that need to be remembered.